And tonight we begin with FDA Commissioner Marty Makary, whose drive to restore transparency is already reshaping one of the country's most important agencies. Dr. Marty Makary, thank you so much for joining us. You're the FDA Commissioner now, and right out of the gate you pledged the gold standard science here at the FDA and transparency. So give me the overall view of what making America healthy looks like from the FDA perspective.
You know, we're focused on more cures and meaningful treatments for the American public and healthier food for children, because we've got to look at health holistically. We're even prioritizing drugs that reduce downstream healthcare utilization. So if there's a drug that's going to reduce how much insulin a child with type 1 diabetes needs to take, we're going to prioritize that. So we're trying to use common sense and gold standard science both to modernize the agency, to deregulate, and to focus on food, which is a huge priority in this administration.
Why do you think that is important to focus on, and why is it something that all Americans should care about?
Well, because it's been a giant blind spot in modern medicine. We have over 40% of our nation's children now who are sick with a chronic disease. 1 in 3 have diabetes or pre-diabetes. And so what's going on here? We took our early action on removing all 9 petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply. We then went a step further and said we're going to inventory all the chemicals. We already saw one of the largest food makers remove titanium dioxide, another chemical. Sam's Club announced they're going to remove it along with 39 other chemicals. And so we're seeing this movement towards health now because we are talking about it from a public health standpoint. And we're also rewriting the food pyramid. That's one of the most broken pieces of misinformation that has caused terrible destruction to our healthcare system in the form of government-subsidized obesity and diabetes through the SNAP program. So we're doing common sense things. They're enormously popular in the general public, and we're doing it in a coordinated way with USDA and HHS.
What is it, if you could talk to the American public right now, maybe every parent out there, what advice would you give them right now? I know you guys are working hard, but what's something they can do today to make sure their family is healthier?
Well, for the first time, we're talking about things we've never talked about before. Reducing ultra-processed food in the food of children. Natural light exposure. Kids go to school today, and some of them have less natural light exposure than inmates in a federal penitentiary. We're talking about all of it. We're talking about microplastics and lifestyle. We've got to ask, why do 50% of kids with attention deficit disorder get medicated? Why do 1 in 4 women take an SSRI or other antidepressant in middle age? We've got to stop and look around and ask what's going on. What are the root causes?
I think one of the things that is very important right now, and I assume it's very important to you, is to reestablish the trust of this agency with the American people. So many people do feel like they were misled. So how do you go about reestablishing that trust and that connection with the American people?
We have to be honest and tell people what we know and don't know. The worst thing you can do in public health is to insist that people do something when the evidence is really flimsy. And we saw that during COVID with insisting that a toddler wear a cloth mask for 3 years, insisting schools shut out children for 1 year and 8 months in parts of the country. So we're trying to rebuild trust in institutions and physicians and public health by being honest. And at the same time, we're going to tackle some big problems. We're looking at autism. What are the root causes? I believe in this administration, through modernizing the agency, cutting the idle time, and cutting the regulatory red tape, we're going to see a cure or meaningful treatment for type 1 diabetes. Certainly that's my goal, along with neurodegenerative diseases. We have identified a pilot program to get decisions out quickly for certain medications that are in line with our national priorities, including domesticating manufacturing as a national security issue, or meeting a large unmet public health need, or lowering the price of a drug as a part of the president's most favored nation status program. If you as a company lower the price of your drug in the U.S. to equalize it with the price in other wealthy countries, then we want to reward that. So we want to do everything we can as a regulatory body to promote healthier food and more cures and meaningful treatments for Americans.
One of the things I know that you've been very successful at doing is working with major food brands. You've gotten commitments from them to say, hey, we are going to get rid of essentially the junk, the things that we don't want in our food supply. How do you go about ensuring they actually follow through?
What we want are hard commitments. And so we're tracking all of their performance, and we're going to keep track, and we're keeping track. Is it a partial or complete removal? What the time frame is. The companies know that this is coming. You know, the companies, when they saw parents concerned about added sugar, responded and started advertising low in added sugar or no added sugar in their products. They see the writing on the wall thanks to Secretary Kennedy's vision for a healthier food supply. And so we are seeing now, you know, Republican, Democrat, independent moms showed up in high numbers to vote for President Trump over this very agenda that we've seen championed. So what we want to see is real improvements by the industry and not just lip service. And so we're holding them accountable.
One of the things that I personally love that you have done is you were trying to phase out the animal testing. It was a pretty unnecessary thing to be doing in the first place, but why was that important for you?
90% of drugs that clear animal testing are not safe and effective in humans. And we have better tools now. We have computational modeling and something called organ-on-a-chip technology, where we grow the cells in a lab and test the drug on those cells. So one of my first actions was to introduce a roadmap towards elimination of animal testing for drugs. We've gotten a lot of the routine requirements out. We had drugs that were approved in other countries, used in large populations, where when they came to the U.S. for approval, we were still requiring 2 species of animal testing. We've got modern techniques, and if we do this right, there are benefits to delivering more cures faster, because that's a long, tedious process. The computational modeling and cell technology is much faster, and it reduces R&D costs, which could translate into lower drug prices, which is a huge priority for this president.
I mean, this has to be a labor of love. Why did you feel like this was the time and this was the place for you?
Look, I had a good life as a cancer surgeon at Johns Hopkins, but this is so much larger. We're talking about the health of the population. We're talking about challenging deeply held assumptions about why we have such high rates of food and peanut allergies. We have billion-dollar Alzheimer's drugs, but we're not talking about the root causes until now. And so there's this huge opportunity to talk about food and cures in a holistic way. We've got to do it. We've got to talk about school lunch programs, not just putting every 6-year-old on Ozempic. We're drugging our nation's children at scale, and nobody is talking about the causes until now, until we have had this bold charge to go ahead and tackle these issues, irrespective of what the lobbyists and corporations are telling us. And it's such an exciting time. We have such incredible chemistry. Dr. Oz, Dr. Bhattacharya, and Bobby Kennedy, and we're all talking about these issues in real time every day, how we can coordinate research that then informs drug approvals the second the research is done, and drug approvals that can result in Medicare payment the second the drug is approved, and doing it all in such a more streamlined fashion. For the first time, we're looking broadly and holistically at health, and I believe that is the ultimate root issue that can fix our broken healthcare system, because we can keep throwing good money after bad into a broken healthcare system and talk about how to finance differently our broken healthcare system, or we can talk about how to fix our broken healthcare system by improving the health of the population.